The classic combo is back. Welcome to Happy Suffer,
Boobity 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 boobity.
featuring perfect ally and inclusion expert, Ed. Because he's a dude, she's a dude, we're all dudes.
Yes, it's true.
This is episode 282 of Happy Suffer. I guess I'm Nathan because I don't remember anyone's name in this movie except for Ed Dexter.
Yeah,
I'm Andy Samberg.
there you go. I'll be Little Pete.
This week we're going to talk about Good Burger 2 from pretty terrible year 2023.
True. Yes.
Before we get into any of this, did you know there is a Good Burger 2 novelization that
No,
came out in 1998?
I did not, and I need it.
Let's see. It follows Ed and Dexter trying to license Ed's sauce to sell. Unfortunately, a big pot of Ed's sauce is empty, and Ed isn't available to make more due to the fact that he's trying to track down a customer to return 18 cents in change to. Determined
Okay.
to return the change, he follows the customer around the world and ends up getting mixed up in a kidnapping plot in Paris, all while Dexter is trying to track him down.
That tracks, I think.
Like the idea of like a weird, like the fucking Ed getting mixed up in like a Taken plot.
Yeah, I mean, I think realistic.
um, yeah, this I don't know. This was fine, I guess. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. But I also I guess like for those unaware, like not part of the Patreon, we did Good Burger like sort of early-ish on in the podcast
Yeah,
as a bonus episode with like, I think the Keenan episode, and I had never seen it before, so like I was like aware of like the All That sketch from when I was younger, but like I didn't really have like the nostalgia for Good Burger because I had not seen it until I don't know last year,
right.
and so like I feel like a lot of the people I follow on Letterboxd that like had good reviews of this, like like 4 stars and up, like were just I don't know maybe just slightly younger than I am that like were like way into like All That and Good Burger and all that shit, and like I overall I think Good Burger is pretty funny. I thought it was pretty good. And this was just kind of like, I don't know, slightly worse than the first one. Like, there were things in it that I definitely laughed at, but there was a lot of stuff that I was just kind of like, oh, I don't know, it feels like they were trying a little too hard to be the first movie, if that makes sense. I don't know. Something about it didn't fully work for me. But
Yeah,
it was still totally fine. Like there were definitely some things I laughed at, and it was like I think Kel Mitchell is very funny. I also think Keenan's funny, but like it was good to see like Kel back in something.
yeah, yeah, because he's been sort of like MIA.
Yeah, like I think he pops up and stuff here and there, but not. He definitely didn't have like the career that like Keenan did.
No. Yeah, I mean, so I obviously am one of those people that like Good Burger was like a I don't want to say like a huge part of my life, but like it I was the age where like when it came out, it was like for me.
Mm.
And so I think like I think that the issue here is the issue that happens when you're remaking something that is originally for like kids and young teens, because For those, I guess, who aren't familiar, some background on all that. It was kind of like it was like an SNL or Mad TV style TV show,
for
but for
kids.
kids and young adults. And it was on Nickelodeon. And so you had like a sketch, like a variety show, but it was all, yeah, like young sketches, which to me I think is harder than like because you can't really do too much like quote unquote like adult humor in them, and so a lot of them were a little bit goofy. And so the original like idea behind Good Burger and Ed was just a sketch on this variety show, and there were multiple ones. I don't necessarily remember Keenan also being in the sketches. Like I think it was just Ed, and then he would interact. Like they do have like two of the people in this movie. One of them is Connie Muldoon, who that's her like character name or whatever. What's her real name? Mary Beth, Lori Beth.
Lori Beth Denberg.
Yes, I thought that she was like one of my favorite All That characters. I thought she was very funny. She is playing Connie Muldoon, so she does like a cameo in this. But that's like essentially what the sketch was. It was just like Ed at Good Burger trying to take customer orders, and it was just like silliness
Yeah,
because
like
Ed.
people would come in, he would like fuck up their order or just be like weird, and then it's the same like it was the same idea like SNL has like a bunch of movies based on their characters that
Right,
like
yeah.
only one of them work, which is A Night at the Roxbury.
I mean, true. So they essentially like I don't know if they did this with any of the other sketches because like one of the other characters, there's a scene in this movie where they realize that the handle to a freezer has been broken off for like 22 years, and then they open it and there's a worker inside, and he was frozen, and he was also in All That as like I want to say he was like Pizza Face, and then there was another sketch where he had like really, really big ears for some reason. And so they have like some of these things kind of like scattered in the movie for like nostalgia reasons, which I liked. But it is like one of those things where like they took this sketch and they made it into a movie. And at the time, like I feel like a lot of people who were like Nickelodeon kids like revere this movie, like Good
Yeah.
Burger, the original Good Burger. It's still very funny, obviously. Like a lot of the jokes hold up. I think the characters, like Keenan and Kel together, obviously they also had the Keenan and Kel show, which was one of my favorites. I think that they still work really well together, and I think that like the thing they did good in this movie was that they kept like the authenticity of the two characters. Like everything that happens is still like it's the characters, right? It's not just like them going through the motions of reprising the role.
Yeah.
Like they slip back into it really easily. But I think the thing that's a problem for me is that the plot to Good Burger 2 is essentially the same as Good Burger. They just use it as a device to like pepper in nostalgic things from the first one, which to me, like, it was fine, but like overall, I don't really think was necessary because it's like, again, you come to that question of like, who is this movie for? Because you're obviously hoping that like people our age will like nostalgia watch it with their kids, but there is something about like if you're trying to make a movie for adults, but it's like the material is for preteens or whatever, it still like doesn't quite work to me. And I agree with you. Like there was a lot of stuff that I thought was very funny about this movie, but it is kind of like 50-50 where, like I said, I think the plot being the exact same to me is like, no, it was like a letdown. And then some of it was just like goofy in a way that I felt didn't work. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
like,
just like, why did they do that? You know what I mean?
I think there's things in it that's interesting that, like, maybe a better writer could have done something else with. Like, I do
Hmm.
like that it sort of tackles some ideas, like the idea of, like, automation of, like, you know,
Yeah.
people or whatever to like get rid of people doing these kind of jobs and sort of like corporate takeover stuff, but like, and like I think they do it all right for like what is essentially a kids movie.
Yeah.
But I just kind of wish there was like a little bit more of that. But I also get that like this is ideally it's a movie for kids, but like it's like you said, like it's one of those ones where it's like it's kind of made 50-50 where it's like really for people our age, but all like they're really like from a studio standpoint is they're trying to get kids into it because there's I at least on Letterboxd there's a Good Burger 3 listed on there now,
Oh no.
which if they're not going to space I'm gonna be very upset.
I
So
did see that at the end.
so
Um,
it better be a Good Burger on the moon or something.
yeah, so like that kind of like goes back to my point of like who's this movie for because like so if you haven't seen the original Good Burger, Good Burger,
No, you're right the first time.
it is basically that a Good Burger is a restaurant, obviously, and Ed is just like this pure of heart dummy. He Dexter is Keenan. I probably will just call them Keenan and Kel.
Yeah.
Actually, to be honest, Kel is Ed. And Keenan ends up getting a job to pay off this like accident that happened. And he basically like moves in and like starts becoming friends with everybody at the restaurant. Ed has created this like special sauce that he eats with his meal. Dexter tries it and is like, this is amazing. And like essentially everything goes to shit because Dexter is a bad friend or Keenan, whatever, is a bad friend and tries to like sell Ed sauce. And there's like this whole thing with this other competition burger place called Mondo Burger. It Kel gets his feelings hurt. Dexter's like, oh, I've been a bad friend, whatever. And that's essentially what happens in this, except it's like 22 years in the future. Ed now owns Good Burger, but still works there, is not the manager for some reason. What was his name? Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Jensen?
The manager I don't remember.
Mr. Jensen. The whole thing with them calling him Mr. Jensen and he's like 20 something to me, I
Right,
found
yeah.
very funny.
For some reason I thought you were talking about the original guy that's like a creep, so he's not in
No,
this.
no, no. Yeah,
Even though
boo. We
I
don't.
think he has a writing credit on it still.
Boo.
Which I mean, like if he created the characters, that's kind of
Sure.
can't do much about that.
Right. Good thing he went bye-bye forever, as Kel says. And and so they're selling Ed sauce at the Good Burger. Basically, like the idea that Keenan is like has gone on to be like a get rich quick scheme kind of dude really tracks for me. I think
Yeah.
the writing of that character went really well. He develops this product that essentially you're supposed to spray on something and make it like fire retardant, but
His intro is very funny.
it doesn't work. I'm not sure why you didn't test it, but he like brings all these people to his house where they spray the fire gun or whatever it was called on the house, set it on fire, and then it like actually sets on fire. And so he loses his investing, obviously, because his product doesn't do what it's supposed to do. He's down on his luck. He returns to Good Burger, where Ed gives him a job. And then, like, there's this other random guy that's like, hey, we want you to sell us the rights to Good Burger so we can make this international chain rather than being just one restaurant. Keenan sees dollar signs, talks Kel into selling Good Burger, and then they all get fired. I forgot to say spoilers, but who cares? They all get fired, and then they like hatch this really ridiculous plan to like sabotage the company, who, basically tricked them into signing over all the rights of Good Burger, and like that's what happens. So like kind of essentially again the same plot as the first one. Like Keenan is a dickhead, and then he has to like make it up.
I think they do a good job sort of like rehashing the plot, but in like a fun way. Like I like the idea that it was the one dude's sister that's like trying to get revenge
Yeah, I
on
did like
them.
that.
And like I don't know, I think overall, plot wise, I had no problem with it. I just think a lot of the jokes don't I don't know. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it cuz like there there were definitely a lot of jokes that I thought were very funny and like a lot of jokes that like maybe like weren't like hilarious but like I kind of like, would like smirk at or whatever.
Yeah.
Like but I still like I don't know, something about it I was like this kind of didn't feel super good, but like I don't know, I still laughed at like a good portion of it and like I don't know, I'd be curious if like my rating goes up on like a rewatch cuz
So I watched it twice. I watched it first, um, just like in a group setting, and I feel like it was. I don't really know if I feel like it was more enjoyable or not because then I watched it again to try and take like a few notes. And there was stuff I missed because the first time I watch it, like somebody would be talking or
right.
like, whatever. Um, and I feel like kind of the same way about it, except for like the novelty of the cameos obviously wasn't there for me. And I focused a little bit more on the plot. And I did like the whole thing where like it is like weird where it's like some of the writing to me was really smart and some of it was like stupid. Like like callback bits, I guess, because like for example, when the movie starts, it's immediately like Kel singing a song and there's like puppet food around and then it immediately cuts to Pete Davidson yelling at the top of his lungs for service. And I was like, I don't know about this. So it's like stuff like that. Then you get into like so it's like that and then it's like it shows Keenan with his house catching on fire, which is like again so ridiculous. Let's put fireworks in it. I did like the firefighters like high-fiving when his house caught on fire.
I
Like that to me
thought
was funny.
I thought their reaction when he was just like we won't
No more
even no more
fires.
fires. They're like no more fires.
Yeah. That to me is an example. Maybe that's the problem, right? It's like some of the stuff is slapstick and then some of it's really smart. Then the next thing that happens is Keenan goes to visit, right? And Kel is driving the Burger Mobile and he like does this thing that's like very, I feel like 90s kind of thing where he hits him with his car and he like flips over the front and lands in the passenger seat. And I was like, stupid. So it's like they do these things where it's like something stupid and slapsticky followed by something that's smart. And I feel like, and then there's like a scene, like the whole thing with Connie Muldoon where she's like ordering like her, like the thing about that character is that she like goes off and talks and talks and talks and talks or whatever, which is very funny. But then she was like, if it's not too much trouble, could you take 2 slices of onion and put them on the burger and then take them off? Because I enjoy the essence of onion, but not the
That's
crunch.
a real mood.
So funny. And then there's just like things like that where like but then there's like that old lady that's like the driver. She's like, I don't know, 90, and then there's a scene where she's like someone's throwing her up in the air and she's like flipping around and shit, which again I feel like is like very much a throwback to like that early 90s humor, but I don't feel like it works layered in with like the stuff that's like good writing. Like I don't know. So I feel like maybe just kind of like the ping-ponging of like actual funny smart joke and like slapstick ridiculous stuff like at some parts of the movie does not work for me.
Yeah, I think the big flaw is that like we said where they're trying to cater to two different audiences and I feel like this would have been really interesting if it would have just straight up only catered to like the adults that watched it when they were kids.
Yeah.
Cuz like I feel like this would be a like really fun movie if it was literally dealing with like both of like I mean I guess it is but just not in like a great way but like just dealing with these two characters just like dealing with adulthood
Yeah.
which is like kind of like what they do with Dexter but Ed is still just essentially just Ed
Yeah,
And
literally.
like, despite he's got like a family, which was like his was fun. Like the one that plays his like kid, that's essentially just him, was like killing it.
Ed
Yeah,
too.
he was so good as like just portraying that like exactly that character.
I did have a thought too where I was like, if they wanted to like reboot all that, he could definitely just
Oh,
play Ed.
they did reboot all that a couple
Oh,
like
did
yeah,
they?
like and Kel was the only one that returned. Like
Oh,
Kel was
okay.
like the adult on the show, the way that the one creep dude was, and then it
Oh,
was like
gotcha.
all like newer kids, and like I think it ran for at least a couple years, like long enough that it like seemed like it was a decent hit.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see. Uh, oh, maybe it only had. So it had like one season of 35 episodes when it rebooted because
I mean,
it
that's kind of a
it
lot.
ran
Yeah.
from 94 to 2000. Let's see, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 2000, 2002, 2002, 2003, 2005, and then 2019.
Okay.
So it ran like sort of consistently for a decade, and then like came back in 2019. And I've seen like a couple sketches from it because I saw them like online when I think it first came back, and like just they do Good Burger sketches in it,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like it's fine,
Yeah.
but like I don't know who like any of the kids were in it. Like
Right.
I'd be curious if like any of them are like anybody now. And I guess Keenan and Kel were like executive producers of the reboot.
Let me look up some of these children.
Let's see. No, like it seems, yeah, Lori Beth, Josh Server, Jamie
Yeah.
Lynn Spears, all like,
Boo.
well, I mean, I don't know, but they all like came back. Like, I don't like Lisa Foyles. I don't like some of these names I don't recognize, but they all at least like returned for like cameos.
Yeah.
Apparently, the Loud Librarian and Detective Dan were revived. I don't know what that means.
Oh, okay. I remember
I don't know if I've
both of those.
seen an episode of all that since probably like 1998, and like really
Yeah.
all I remember is the Good Burger sketches. I remember Keenan, I think, teaching French in a bathtub. If that was like the plot, like specifically the idea behind those sketches, I remember very specifically him in the bathtub, but I feel like he was either just talking in like fake French or teaching it.
Okay, yeah. That does ring a bell. Um,
Oh, they even continued doing like I forgot they did musical guests on that show.
oh, Chris Farley was on there. Oh yeah, the musical guest. Yeah, so it like literally really was like
I don't.
SNL for kids.
I don't. I recognize two names on this list of people that were guests on the new seasons.
Yeah.
There's like the Jonas Brothers and where'd it go? Who was the other one? Bad Bunny. I don't know who. Almost I like real. I literally I don't think I've heard of any of the rest of these people.
Yeah. Well, so anyways, yeah, so I don't know.
Oh, there was a 10-year anniversary reunion special. I'll probably
What
watch
the
that.
frick? Yeah. Um yeah, and I don't know. I think that again, yeah, it was like totally fine. I think the end like was
Well, so I think one of the things that especially like in like this current culture of just everything being rebooted and remade and all that shit is like one of the big problems I have that this kind of also suffers from is like it's like kind of like you said where like the plot is essentially the same where like it just kind of felt unnecessary.
right.
And I think like I said earlier like what I would have wanted is like a more adult comedy version of even if it was this exact same storyline, I think I wanted it to be just slightly more for like adults than it came off being.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, like, I don't know, there's just like this thing where I'm just like, if you're like if you're rebooting or remaking or like whatever they're, like sequelizing, like, don't just tell me the same story. Show me like something different. And like it is essentially, it's literally just like, well, Mondo Burger wants this place again, basically.
Yeah.
And like, okay, great. So that's why, like, when I heard the joke about Good Burger 3, and then I searched it on Letterboxd and I saw that there was a Good Burger 3 on there, I was like, please God, go to space. That
They
would
got
be
that. I think they
amazing.
have to. Yeah. I did like yeah, like I think I agree. Like I think that they should have just gone because like you can make an adult comedy without it being an adult rating, right? Like it doesn't have to be raunchy, but it can be not overly goofy. Like you can tell, like when you sit and watch it, like you can tell the jokes where somebody wrote like this is for the adults and then here's a joke like this is for the kids. Like I feel like it would have been entertaining enough without having to do like the over the top slapsticky stuff about it. And
Well, like, so have you seen Clerks 2?
no.
So I think one of the really smart things that Clerks 2 does is like the opening, like literally the opening is exactly the same as like the opening of Clerks or whatever, where it's like Dante coming to the store to get it ready. And when he opens the shutters, the entire store inside is on fire. And so from the start, and then like the entire movie takes place now as at like a movie's fast food chain restaurant. And it's not, so like, I think a lot of people were going into it being like, oh, it's gonna just be like a rehash of the first one, and it is in the sense that it's like the two characters like, you know, interacting or whatever, but it takes like they immediately from the start are in a new location, there's new characters involved. And I kind of wish this did something along those lines where it would have been really interesting if, like, I don't know, instead of Dex's house burning down, he accidentally like burned down the Good Burger. And
Yeah,
then, like,
yeah.
instead of having the whole Mondo Burger plot sort of thing again, it was like him and like Ed rebuilding Good Burger and like, you know, starting over. Like, I guess in that case it would have literally just been like a complete rehash of the Clerks 2 plot, because that also involves, and by
Well,
the end,
yeah.
them rebuilding the Quick Stop. But like, I don't know, something like that would have been a better plot for, at least like for me, because like it did,
Yeah.
and also it did feel like, I feel like a lot of the stuff in it that was like, I feel like a lot of the jokes were for kids, and then it was just the cameos were for adults.
Yeah.
Where like, I don't know, I guess I probably haven't watched the first one since we did that episode, but like in my mind there were jokes in it that were like that shit they'll like put into like kids shows where there's like more adult jokes that are like hidden as kids jokes,
Yeah.
and I don't really feel like this did that. I don't, at least not that I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess maybe not really.
The
That like
I do think the cameos were all pretty good though.
so I usually like when we watch these movies to do or shows or like whatever it is, we normally try not to talk about it at all because we want it to just be like first impressions and like obviously like a genuine conversation. But when I was like watching it the first time, I had some drinks, so maybe like we did find it more funny because of that. But I like texted you to ask if you had watched it yet because there's like this, I don't know if I feel like most people will remember this, but was it for the pandemic
Yeah, the Gal Gadot
where
Imagine fucking thing.
yeah, so there was like this, if somehow you don't know, there was like this video where like a bunch of literally just like actors and actresses and like famous people sang that is a Beatles song, right?
Yeah, it's a John Lennon song.
Okay, John Lennon. And it was just basically like trying to be like, oh, we're all in this together, you know, as people are dying and losing their jobs and and like the economy is like crashing. These fucking stars are doing nothing except just like singing a song or whatever. And obviously it got pretty much nothing but backlash. All of us common folk were like, what the fuck? Like what a weird dystopian thing to happen. But anyways, after Dexter in this movie, after he accidentally sells Good Burger and they're trying to figure out how to get it back, Ed has this idea, what if we paid a bunch of celebrities to like sing a song about getting the Good Burger back? And so it's like showing a few people. Some of the people were like very like Shaun White was in it, and I was like, what? And then Andy Samberg showed up, and I was just like, that's when I texted you like, have you watched it yet? Because I'm losing my mind. Andy Samberg and Little Pete from Pete and Pete are in the video.
There's a lot of like SNL people that I've
Yeah,
seen Keenan like brought over in it as well.
yeah. Um, it was just, and they like wrote a song, and it's very funny. So that part I thought was like hilarious.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. I like Nicole Byers' part as like the music artist who like I can't remember her character's name that like
Luna Fox or
yeah like
something.
Keenan's uh niece is like
Yeah.
obsessed with.
So that was one of the parts where like I enjoyed the cameo, but felt why was that scene? Like I understand because it's like his uh he's like estranged from his sister in this movie because of some kind of thing where he probably got her to invest in something that fell through and she's like broke now because of it. And his niece ends up working at Good Burger with him, right? You know, she's already working there. And I get that they did it as a way to like build their trust, like they're friends now for the rest of the movie. But that whole scene to me, I was just like, why is this happening? Although I love Nicole Byer, I thought you know, she's funny, obviously. But some of the scenes like that, I just was like, I don't know. It fell out of place to me.
I mean that's kind of like I don't know like that was I think one of the things the plot point that like didn't work for me is him trying to reconnect with like his sister and niece or whatever
Right.
because like it I don't know it felt kind of forced with his character where I do think my idea of like he accidentally burns down the Good Burger and has to make it up to everybody would have maybe worked better for that aspect of the movie because
Yeah.
like it is like I guess if I remember correctly it does feel like he's he still feels kind of like a piece of shit like tech bro dude until like three-fourths through the movie even like while he's trying to like make it up to the niece a little bit.
Yeah. And like the only thing, so, and the reveal of like the sister at the end, I like they made that a big thing, even though it's just like not somebody who's been
Yeah, just another SNL.
right. So like to me, that reveal was weird because like you don't hear or see the sister, like you don't see the sister like the whole time until the very end. And it's like, yeah, he saved Mia's life because she goofily got trapped in like a fry making machine or something, and then he saves her life or whatever. But it's like she wouldn't have been there if not for him. So the idea that like he saved her life and then the sister's just like, well, I forgive you for everything. Like, I don't think that's realistic, right? Like, and I don't know. So like the whole thing with the sister reveal, I didn't really get. I was like, okay, I feel like they built it up to be this thing, and then it was like nothing. Um,
Unless there's like was already like plans for like whatever 3 was gonna be where like they're revealing that so that it like will be a thing in
yeah,
3 like yeah I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. The reveal of so in the first movie, a restaurant called Mondo Burger opens up across the street to try and steal basically like their business. They try and steal Ed's sauce and like all of this shit. And the guy gets busted and like sent to jail or whatever. And like the big reveal in this one is that like this lawyer executive guy that's been trying to franchise Good Burger actually works for the family who owned Mondo Burger. And so there's this scene where like Keenan and Kel go to the office and what's the actress's name? Let's see.
It's Jillian Bell.
Yeah. She basically like turns around and is like, ta-da. And Kel goes, I don't know who you are, which I thought was so funny because we don't know who she is, right? Like it was like a huge reveal and she's like, here I am. And I was like, are we supposed to know who that is? And then she was like, oh, it's me, Kat. And so she ends up being the sister of the guy from the first movie who owned Mondo Burger or whatever. And so they're just like, oh, okay. And so like the whole reveal of like we don't know who she is either. To me, I found very funny. Which again is like one of those jokes that's obviously like an adult joke, right? Like kids and like the whole plot with what you were saying about like company takeover and how she's talking about like, well, we're going to replace it's going to be an automated restaurant because we don't want to have to deal with like employees saying that they're sick or they have to go to the bathroom. Poo on your own time and shit like that. Like kids, I don't feel like understand that plot at all, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's to me just like kind of a little bit all over the place. But again, like with like there are very funny jokes throughout the movie that are like probably not aimed towards kids. Like there's this scene where Keenan gets to Ed's house and like he meets all of the children and he's like, first of all, everybody in the family is always wearing Good Burger uniforms, even though they don't work at Good Burger, and their kids have names of like condiments. And he's like, this is this person, this is this person. And he goes, this is ketchup. She's our third favorite. And Keenan's like, you can't say that. Like that whole thing to me was like pretty funny. I liked the Carmen
Electra.
I almost said Carmen Sandiego. I liked the Carmen Electra cameo.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
It was kind of weird that like he didn't remember that they weren't married though. Like he has like a wife who's just like also a new person.
Well, I mean, like, I think it fits the character. Like, there's things like with like, I guess overall, I think Kel is killing it in this.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's like his storyline kind of works, and like all of his stuff is pretty great. But I just kind of feel like Keenan gets like shortchanged a little bit, and I don't know if that has to do with just like scheduling stuff or like or what, because like it just kind of like it feels like he's equally the lead of the movie and also being completely shortchanged like character and plot wise. Like,
yeah.
I think that's my biggest problem that like made the movie feel off for me, is it felt like he's blatantly there and he's doing a good job, but it just kind of something felt off with like the writing of his character, I guess. I did like the scene where they're put into what is essentially a Tesla. And
Oh my! I literally have this scene written down because I found it so funny.
Like I don't like them having to just like get it into like an empty like park or whatever and just let it spin until the battery dies, and like they're like, I hope it's like short on fuel or whatever, and Cal's like Ed is just like, it's on F for fairly empty.
Fairly empty.
That was a pretty good joke. Like I like a lot of the stuff with like Ed's character where he is essentially just like a dumb adult that doesn't know how like anything works outside of like the Good Burger.
And it's like still because he's like that in the first one when he's just like, you know, like an employee, but it's like he still has no idea what he's doing, but he's successful. Like he has a family, he owns the Good Burger, he's like doing what he loves, and he's got like a fulfilling life. Versus Keenan, who his character always treats Ed obviously like he's just like a dum dum, and he hasn't doesn't have anything. Like he doesn't have any money. He has a doesn't have a job. He has a bad relationship with his family, but he thinks he's like like the smart, cool one or whatever, which has like always been their dynamic. But you're right. It's like his character does the exact same thing that he does in the first movie, but there's like no um like change at all.
Yeah.
And it's basically just like, yeah, he did something dumb and now he is trying to make up for it, but like he kind of doesn't really like, but everybody just forgives him again. It's kind of like, okay, whatever. That scene in the car though made me laugh so hard because like they go to like essentially what is Mondo Burger. They're calling it Super Good Burger, Mega Good Burger.
Yeah, it's like some company that buys, like, like tricks them into selling Good Burger, and they're going to shut it down, and they're creating a Mega Good Burger.
Yeah, and Mega Good
I
Burger.
can't remember what
And
the name of like the company was though.
it was like EcoCom or it
Yeah.
was like some random like business that just basically buys mom and pop shops and like puts them out of business essentially. And they meet Kat, they see like the whole like presentation and she kicks them out. She blows up the burger mobile for whatever reason, which is sad. And then she's like, "All right, I'll give you a ride home." So she puts them in this like self-driving car that like I don't know was gonna maybe kill them
Yeah, I think
because
the
it like
plan is it's
locks
supposed to
them.
kill them.
Yeah, it locks them in the back and it takes off and it makes a wrong turn and then that's when they realize that like they don't know, which like seems kind of she already bought the seems a little expensive. But they get in the car and it's like self-driving, but you can't like brake or anything like that. So they end up just like doing donuts and they're gonna wait for the fuel to run out. And there's like this scene where it's like I don't know, playing like fucking techno music or whatever, and they're doing donuts in this park, and then it just like cuts to nighttime, and they've fallen asleep, but the car's still doing donuts. That I don't know why, but that made me laugh so hard. And then they like wake up and they're like, and the music starts playing again or whatever, and then it finally runs out of fuel. But I was just like,
No, there was things like that I did really like. Where like I feel like if they would have leaned heavier into like absurd shit like that, it would have been way funnier. Like it
yeah,
just needed to pick one side or the other. Is this like specifically for kids or is this for like people who watched the first one when they were kids and like they
right,
just don't balance it well, I guess.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, exactly. And it's just like this trap that a lot of these reboots fall into that like this one is better than some of the other ones. I felt like I did the Chip and Dale movie. I was like so disappointed in. I didn't like it at all. This I feel is like a little bit more successful as far as a reboot goes to me. Like again, I don't have like a polarizing opinion on it.
Yeah.
Um because I did go in kind of assuming it was going to be garbage. And like I think just leaning on the strengths of the actual actors like made it like salvaged it a little bit. I feel like I'm like very middle of the road to this. Like it wasn't offensive, but I also do not care that it exists. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I feel like it's something that like if I'm like, well, I'm gonna watch Good Burger, I would probably rewatch it just as like a follow up. And I will like if they do a third one, I'll watch it. Like
sure.
but it's not yeah, it's something that I feel like it's definitely something I'm not gonna think about a lot past this. Like
No, and like I wouldn't have paid to see it. And if I had paid to see it, I feel like I would have been maybe a lot more. There's like no stakes to just like watching it on streaming,
yeah.
right? But
Yeah, that was the thing is I was like the only reason that we like were doing the episode is I already had Paramount Plus.
right. So it's like I don't know. So overall, I think it gave me some laughs. I did enjoy a lot of the cameos because like I don't know. I feel like Nickelodeon obviously was huge. Like, I definitely feel like Disney Channel and Disney is like huger now, of course. Like, if you think back to like the time when we were young, it was very much competing like Disney and Nickelodeon, right? And but they did have like a different styles, and I was like definitely we talked about this a lot. I was definitely a Nickelodeon kid, and I felt like their shows were just like better.
Oh yeah,
Like like
I well go ahead, you finish your thought.
I obviously there's like some Disney Channel original movies that like have my heart, right? Like I love Brink. I talk about that one all the time. And there's like a few other ones that I really like. But when you look at the content of um like most of them, it's like very clear to me that Disney is like adult making programming for kids. Whereas Nickelodeon felt more like, obviously, it was still like adults that were executives, but it felt a lot more like
Kids making
we're
stuff for
make,
kids.
yeah, and like we're making this for like it's not just like we're making this program for kids to get them away from us and like get paid or whatever. It was like we really want to give them something to like enrich their like not enrich their lives, but you know what I mean? Like it just felt like authentic. And yeah, it felt like kids writing for kids. So
I was not like I Disney Channel was like not a thing for me like at all growing up.
yeah.
And I don't think it was until like my first girlfriend had like cable and all that shit, and like I remember seeing some Disney Channel stuff and just being like, this is terrible. Like I like Lizzie McGuire and all that kind of shit was just like this means like absolutely nothing to me. And I've seen like episodes of a lot of that stuff, and I was like, this is bad. Like
Yeah.
it felt like the one thing that I really respected like our age and even like a little before our age like Nickelodeon stuff is like it was all like really absurd. And Disney Channel felt like it was like too heavily trying to just be like, oh, we're making like kids versions of like the OC or what, you
Right.
know, like they were
Yeah.
trying to like cater to like this teen audience but like kids and like make these like quote unquote real shows. Meanwhile, Nickelodeon was doing like Rocko's Modern Life and like Real Monsters and like Are You
Yep.
Afraid of the Dark and like cool weird shit,
Yeah.
which I fully like always respected. I still need to watch that like Orange Years
Oh, it's
documentary.
so good.
Yeah, I bet.
That I feel like I was literally just thinking like that would be my shout out. I've shouted it out before, but it's good. Um I wonder like how much of that too is because like a lot of the Nickelodeon shows were like Canadian.
I don't
Like
know. Like
it's
it just
yeah.
it always kind of felt like they just had whatever like creatives there that just wanted to do like weird stuff.
Yeah. Like Invader Zim was on
Oh, and Invader Zim was so
Nickelodeon.
good.
Literally amazing. And yeah, I don't know. It just felt like they actually cared about the programming. Like Doug, love Doug, Hey Arnold. That was like getting kind of a little even like the generation after that had Danny Phantom, which I unironically love, even though it's just like a cartoon show. But they had like, I don't know. They just had like I felt like things that were like different than just like a generic like we're middle
Well,
schoolers and I put milk in my friend's locker. It's like helping you explore different avenues like do you want to be into horror? Do you want to be, you know what I mean? Like things like that.
like even the stuff that like got like mega popular through Nickelodeon was like weird. Like SpongeBob is fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like and like
It
features
really
like a
is.
shit ton of like adult jokes. The same way like Rocco's Modern Life did.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, I feel like I guess I get graded. I don't know like what is actually on like Nickelodeon now. Cause I just like I haven't had access to like the actual Nickelodeon channel in like I don't know,
Yeah.
20
I don't
something
know
years.
either.
So like I don't know what it's like now, but like the last time I saw some of it in like the early 2000s, like it was still pretty weird while also feeling like it was kind of moving like a little bit more mainstream. Because
Yeah.
like SpongeBob obviously is like wildly mainstream. It's probably like probably the most popular like a kids show of all time. It
I mean,
feels
I
like it,
would
I
believe
guess, because
that.
like if
Yeah.
like it's a thing. I feel like everyone like like it feels like everybody who was just slightly maybe like 5 years younger than me latched onto, and it just has continued like talking about like the the way that like you and I would talk about something like Are You Afraid of the Dark as being like this pivotal thing for us as like yeah like, you know tweens or teenagers or whatever. It feels like SpongeBob was like that for like almost everybody younger than us.
Yeah. Like I definitely did watch SpongeBob, but yeah, it is definitely the generation after us that really kind of like took it
Yeah.
to the neck, like really latched on. Um, it looks like um the some of the stuff that they are airing now, it still seems kind of weird. There's a Tyler Perry show for kids, which seems like an interesting Monster High, is kind of weird. They rebooted Rugrats. There is a Patrick Star show.
Is it the weird like CGI Rugrats?
Probably, yeah.
I saw like a clip of
Um,
that or whatever, and I was like, this looks like fucking garbage.
there's something called The Loud House. Um,
For some reason, I always thought iCarly was a Disney Channel thing.
mm-mm.
They need to bring back Guts.
I fucking loved Guts. And yeah, and then like think about they like literally remade game shows but for kids. You had Guts, you had Wild and Crazy Kids, obviously Legends of the Hidden Temple, which is like one of the best shows ever. Um
Oh my
they
god,
re
I loved the game shows. Like going all the way back to like Nick Arcade and like oh god, I can't remember the name of it. There was one of them that was essentially like maybe it was just called Finders Keepers, but one where it was essentially you're like looking through a house for an item, and it was
huh.
like oh god, what was that show called? I'll see if I can figure it out while we're talking. Oh yeah,
It looks like
it literally was just Finders Keepers, and it was like they had this big stage that was like like 10 rooms in like a house or whatever, and it would have to like they'd give you a hint that would be like in the living room this gold item blah 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 like whatever, and you would have to like run to that room and try and find it before like the time ran out, and it would just be like this house like full of shit, sort of like a hoarder's type house sometimes,
oh my God.
and it was pretty fun. Like Double Dare,
Yeah.
obviously
Yep.
perfect. Guts, I wanted nothing more than a kid to be on Guts, just like not even to like be on the show. I just wanted to go like run around the crag.
I mean, seriously, yeah. Looks like I forgot about Kablam. Also very weird. The Angry Beavers, I loved that one. Cat Dog, okay. This was kind of around the time where like I felt like maybe I was getting a little old
Yeah,
for some
that's
of
all stuff that
them.
was like right as I was like aged out.
It's like Wild Thornberrys, Rocket Power, As Told by Ginger, Fairly Odd Parents, Chalk Zone. I know for a fact I didn't watch. And then you start getting into like Jimmy Neutron. I do like Avatar, The Last Airbender. Something called Fat Boy and Chum Chum.
Oh my god, there was a revival of Guts called My Family's Got Guts.
Wow. I assume that's like a whole family instead of just the
Yeah, I think
kids.
so. Let's see.
I don't remember. Yeah, okay. So then, the ones that we talk about all the time, which is Adventures of Pete and Pete. I loved Hey Dude, Closer Explains It All, Salute Your Shorts. I don't remember Welcome Freshmen. I love Secret World of Alex Mack. Okay, the show, she
Caitlin and I
turns
were
into
talking
like a
about Alex
puddle.
Mack this morning, and that show was fucking bizarre.
Right? She was like Keenan Kel, obviously, that one was like a little bit more down to earth.
Was it?
I
I mean, in as
mean, it
much as
was
they were just like a show about like these teenagers, but it was like along the
too.
way of like Good Burger, where it was like very absurd.
Yeah, I remember I might have told this story before. Um, but Kenan and Kel was one of my favorites. I remember this episode, I was like staying home sick, because I had like the flu or something, and I was like laying on the couch like watching daytime TV, which like is a kid's dream. And there was a Thanksgiving episode of Kenan and Kel on where somehow I don't remember if it was one of them or if it was the dad, but he got like the turkey stuck on his head. And I remember laughing so hard that I started like choking and I had to like turn the TV off.
That's like a
And
pretty. I feel like standard sort of like kids
yeah,
Thanksgiving thing.
right. And I just remember like it almost killed me. Like the show was so funny, I almost
I
died.
remember it dawning on me like years after that, like I think it's Keenan's dad is Ken Foray from like Dawn of the
Yeah,
Dead, and just being like, what the fuck?
right. Like being in this show with his like two shenanigans, like crazy to me.
I
He was so good in
I
that.
do like that they brought like the orange soda joke
Yes, I
into
did
Good
like
Burger
that.
too.
Yeah, I'm like moving on and I don't this was like definitely so I don't know. I feel like the last of the like Kenan and Kel aired into 2001. Then we started getting into stuff that was definitely like younger than me, like Drake and Josh. I did not
Yeah, I have
watch
like zero
Zoe
reference for any of that shit.
101, iCarly. Chris, like obviously he has had two younger sisters, so he still very much like this stuff was like part of what he watched because like they would watch it. The Naked Brothers band, like what even?
Yeah, it's a lot of that stuff that like I've heard of, but like I have no reference for like what it was or what it was about. Like, are the Jonas Brothers a Nickelodeon thing,
I don't.
or were they Disney or something? Because
They might have been
they were
Disney.
from a show, right?
I don't know. Big Time Rush was definitely Nickelodeon. Jonas Brothers might have been Disney, or I'm
Yeah, it's
not.
on
I don't.
Disney because it's on Disney Plus.
Um,
I did. Oh, I fucking died at the like Guy Fieri, fucking German guy that comes that got made Good Burger like famous. Because I like Flula Borg, the guy that played that character in the movie. I think is pretty funny in general, but like the entire gimmick of like the diners, drive-ins, and dives thing, I thought was
yeah.
very funny. Where there's like explosions on screen and shit, and like I thought that joke was pretty funny.
Oh, I see. Finders Keepers. What would you do? I loved
There
that one
was, I feel
too.
like right right before I didn't have access to any of that stuff, I feel like there was a channel that was just like the game show channel, but it was just the
There,
Nickelodeon ones.
yeah, there definitely
And I used to
was.
watch the shit out of it because it was just all those things like the old, like Nick Arcade. I wanted to be on so fucking bad because I was that dumb kid that was just like, like when they go into the video game for like the final thing, I was like, oh my god, I would be so good at this, even though I know I'm gonna be fucking probably terrible at it. But I
Right.
just remember they had like the things or you like the mini challenges that would just be like, you have to get 2,000 points on like Tetris, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so easy.
Yeah. Some of these I'm like really having like what's it called? Returned. What's it called?
Like
A
found memory
memory.
or whatever.
Yeah, like a recall. Like I remember Caitlin's Way. Animorphs, of course. Okay, also Animorphs. That's like one of the weirdest shows ever.
That
Like,
was, I think, after my time. I know Animorphs is a thing I'm only familiar with from like the memes. Like somebody like they where they take the covers and turn it into something like more absurd.
oh, something fake. Yeah. It's like really interesting because actually, like some of the actors that like I really love now actually were from like Sean Ashmore was in Animorphs, so I feel like I followed his career since then. Kiki Palmer was in one called Jackson VP or True Jackson or something like that. She was so some of these people like really went on to I like followed them pretty much for my their whole careers.
What the fuck is pig, goat, banana, cricket?
I I can't say that I'm familiar with that one.
They have a Star Trek show?
Wow.
Weird. Oh my god, their like live action shit in like the early 90s was incredible. Adventures of Pete and Pete, Hey Dude, Clarissa Explains It All, Salute Your Shorts.
Yep.
All bangers.
What was
How is this shit like it makes me so mad that I can't watch Pete and Pete.
I know.
Like, you have your own fucking streaming network with Paramount Plus. Put all of this shit on there. Although I tried starting Hey Dude at some point. And I was like, this is rough.
I watched it kind of recently. I think the thing that's hard for some of those shows now is that, like, specifically thinking about Hey Dude, is that it's like so painfully obvious on a studio set, and like kind of in a way that like I couldn't not just focus on the set because they're supposed to be on like a dude ranch, right? Which is like different than like Pete and Pete where they're like out in their neighborhood or at school, you know what I mean? Like it's like real places. Hey Dude is definitely just all built sets, which to me was hard to get through, but
oh my god, do you know how like fast I would binge through like Salute Your Shorts?
I know.
Like I don't like Pete and Pete, I kind of understand because it's like a lot of the way like a lot of the MTV shows were where there's so much music in it that I assume getting the broadcast rights is probably damn near impossible. Like there's a bunch of shows like I think The State from MTV had to go through and like put in new music because like so much of it is like just they can't use. So like I don't know, I get it, but like just fucking figure it out. Batman 66 took like 30 years to figure out for that shit and it got dealt with. So like figure out Pete and Pete. Let me watch it.
Right.
I'm looking at Paramount Plus now to see like what Nickelodeon. Paramount Plus is such a fucking weird streaming shit like site.
Yeah, it is.
Or it'll be like, hey, you can watch SpongeBob. Also, here's Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah. I feel like it's because HBO Max and Discovery Plus are now the same thing, and it feels so fucking chaotic when you get on there because it's like, HBO is like usually known for having like serious programming, serious documentaries, and then Discovery Plus is like the opposite where any piece of trash thing that you want to watch is on it, and now they're combined and it's like fucking whiplash. It's like, do you want to watch this documentary about the most gruesome murder you've ever seen in your life? And then it's
or
like,
you want to watch Millionaire Matchmaker,
right? Or and so it's a lot. So I normally have to go because like they're different vibe. They're completely different vibes when you get on there too. So I have to go and like specifically go to like they have like the little tabs or whatever now because I'm just like I can't deal with this. Like it's such a grab bag as to and because Discovery Plus like also has documentaries, but it's like trash documentaries like that fucking one that I watched that was supposed to be like based on the original story of Scream, and then it ended up the documentary was actually just like a ghost hunter show.
Guess what? Sorry, not to interrupt.
What?
Salute Your Shorts is on Paramount Plus.
Okay. I need.
I got that and Strangers with Candy, so I'm about to have the weirdest fucking night.
That's okay, again, so fucking weird. But you know what? I do feel like obviously Salute Your Shorts and Strangers with Candy, they're for the same person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
At very different times in their lives, of course. But yeah, so it's like that, I don't know. It just is like such a fucking mess for that. So
no, HBO is like a fucking disaster now. I hate it.
Yeah.
Like I obviously like a lot of the stuff that was on Discovery Plus, because like obviously I watched like 90 Day Fiance and shit, but like I don't know, like it feels like they merged and then like they were just like immediately like, "Yeah, let's just sell off all this like actual HBO shit," and I'm just like, "What are you doing?" Like the entire reason people signed up for this like app is because all of like your Warner Brothers and HBO shit was under one roof, and now you're just like, let's just sell to Amazon and
Yeah,
Hulu and
yeah,
fucking whatever.
yeah. It's just it's really ridiculous at this point.
Streaming's bad. Everybody buy physical media.
Yeah, and like, oh man, it is just such a like shit show.
We had like a FaceTime call with like my mom and uncle and grandma and stuff like during Thanksgiving, and we were having a conversation about like why I still buy, because I I was telling them that like for like the actual Thanksgiving, like I got home at like 7 in the morning and had to get up at like 11 or whatever to go visit like Caitlin's family, and then like got home and like went to bed for 2 hours and had set an alarm for like Severin and Vinegar Syndrome's like Black Friday stuff at midnight. So
Yeah,
I slept for like 2 or 3 hours and just like got up and bought shit. And they were like, "Oh, like, well, can you just watch that stuff?" And I was like, "No." Like I was like, number one, I'm fucking tired of at this point spending like, I don't know, however much money for like 800 different fucking streaming sites.
and then not having any
And
like
like,
it's not on any of
yeah, and
it.
like 90% of like being garbage. And then like there's literally things like Paramount Plus, the only reason I have it is because like I want to watch the Jackass movies. Like that was why
Sure.
I signed up for it. And now like Kit and I talked about in the Jackass Forever episode, where like it became a thing where I'm just like, I don't know, everything sucks. I'm just gonna like put on Jackass. So it's like literally the only reason I have it. And then Caitlin started watching Drag Race, so we just like kept it.
Yeah.
And so there's things like streaming sites like that like I've signed up for, but I'm like, I bet like I never look at Netflix. Like Netflix is a thing where like maybe twice a year or something, like I Think You Should Leave will have a new season, and then like I won't look at it the rest of the year. And like literally I think the only times I've looked at Netflix this year is when season 3 of I Think You Should Leave and then the Scott Pilgrim anime. And I have like I don't even fucking bother. Like if I go to look at it, I'll look through like what is new on there, and I'm like, this is all garbage. I don't like, we talk about getting rid of it all the time. And like there's just
Yeah.
things like that where I'm just like, I don't know. I'm like, I hate having all of these streaming sites for like a show, or like, you know, signing up for it for like, just to watch like two things, and then there's just like 8,000 garbage things on it. And I'm just like, I don't know, like at some point I'm probably gonna get fed up with this, like fuck all these streaming sites, and then I'll just like watch whatever I own physically, because I have like all of the TV shows that like really mean something to me on like DVD, that like I will rewatch the first 15 seasons of The Simpsons ad nauseum, or like Futurama or The Critic, or like, whatever shit that like I'll buy that stuff. And then at some point, like, and we were also like kind of discussing how, especially with like HBO, where they're just like, yeah, I don't know, we want the tax write off, so this show's like we're deleting it and it's now completely unwatchable for anybody. And
Right. And
like I'm just like, well, I don't know, like I've got shit that like was like that I bought like a bootleg Blu-ray of, that now I can watch it. So I don't know, buy that shit, because like if not, like
well,
they can like, it's the same way like iTunes is the same way, where people will be like, oh, I bought like this movie on iTunes and then like it disappeared, and it's like, yeah, all of these sites could just straight up get rid of shit you paid for at any moment. So it's like, if you can, like, figure out a way to save that or buy it physically, because if you really like it, like, it can't just disappear.
yeah, I don't ever buy anything digital like that unless like for example, the year that we were did Under Wraps for our like crossover with Girl That's Scary, I went to rent it and it was like $2 more to just buy
Yeah.
it. And I was like, well, for as long as it's available and we have it, like I'll spend the $2 or whatever, but like I don't do that because there's no like brand loyalty at all because it's like exactly what you're saying. It's like let's say like you're going to pay for a streaming device because you want to watch a specific show and you want to have access to that show whenever you want. Like for me, it was like, let's say The Office, right? And so I'm like, it used to be on Netflix, I think.
Yeah, and then like every network opened their own streaming site, so all of that shit like disappeared from everything
Right. And
else.
Peacock is like a piece of trash. But like, let's say that NBC didn't own the rights and start their own thing, right? It's like you're paying for like a specific thing that you want to have access to, but there's literally no like they just like take stuff off and put it back on constantly. So it's like like there's no like obviously it's like a massive company. They don't fucking care about their customers. But to me, it just feels like a slight for them to be like, oh yeah, this show that like millions of people stream. Just kidding. Bye. Like we've been trying. So we did the Twilight, the movie for my birthday, and then we were saying we were going to do the other ones as just like a bonus episode later. Try and find them. Like 1 minute remember they were all on Hulu for like literally a couple days. We're like, okay, we'll do this next month. And then a couple days later they were gone. Now they were all on Tubi. I don't know that they're still all on Tubi. So it's like, what are you that? And then, so they're like forcing people to have like 12 subscriptions and they're all like minimum $10 a month. And it's just like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's like if like there's I forget what podcast does it, but they update Stephen King
yeah.
streaming movies and it's like what like stuff, and it's like literally all of them will just like move, every month to a different site, so it'll be like
The same movies.
yeah,
though.
it'll be like the same 30
Yep.
movies are on Hulu, and then the next month they're on Amazon, and then the next month they're all on like Netflix, and now they're all on Tubi or whatever, and I'm just like, oh my god, like
Yeah.
I miss the days when like everything was literally just Netflix or Hulu.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, I don't even remember how we got onto that topic from Good Burger 2.
I think that we were complaining that about like we just can't watch like
Well, it's this thing where like I just think about like when we were teenagers, where like the possibilities of the internet were like so cool, and then how quickly it just turned into like absolute garbage because every
yeah.
company and fucking politician was just like, no, we're gonna make this what we want it to be, and it's like, no. Which is why
It's like how can we
it's
make the most money but screw you out of what you want the
like
most?
YouTube is a fucking garbage company, but one of the things that I do enjoy about YouTube is that like literally like people could just like will just upload like any movie and see like
Yeah.
you'll see how long it takes for like anyone to like report it as like a copyright thing.
Don't snitch.
Yeah.
If you don't work for them and they're not paying, like don't snitch on people. Let us watch stuff for free.
Like there's a bunch of extremely cool sites that like specifically I'm thinking like Cave of Forgotten Films, that is just a site that just is all of these either like like films that were either like sort of like lost to time that somehow got like added to a YouTube link or like whatever video link that like are never gonna make it to like a physical media thing because like say original prints are just like no longer available, and the only way there is to watch it is like somebody taped this shit on like VHS at some point. Or like there's some stuff on it where it's like, hey, this is like a lost cut that everyone like just thought was like lost to time, but like somebody discovered in like their mini disc collection, and it just got like uploaded to Cave of Forgotten Films or like whatever. So there's like really interesting things on there that like I end up probably watching more stuff from things like that or just like random shit on YouTube than I even do on like most streaming stuff at this point, if it's not like a physical media thing I'm watching. like like at this point, like I feel like I watch maybe 5 shows regularly, and almost all of it is just garbage. Like I hit this point like before the pandemic, but like I don't know, maybe like 2018 or so, where like I used to watch the shit out of all of those like I don't know, like Bones type shows where it was like
Mm-hmm.
sort of like these like sort of intense drama ish type shows, or like things like I would have probably been like way on board with like The Sopranos or like Breaking Bad or like some of these shows that are like prestige TV shows that I just like haven't really watched because like I started getting really anxious watching a lot of them
Yeah.
and I just couldn't deal with it, and now it just be like I just started like I was like, well, I'm gonna like take a break from like trying to watch these shows, and that's when I just fell into like 90 Day Fiance and like the like rewatching all of the old like Rock of Love, Flavor of Love, all that shit. And now like all I really watch is like I think weekly I watch whatever 90 Day Fiance stuff airs. There's like 2 Real Housewives that Caitlin and I keep up on, or 3, I guess, when like New Jersey's airing, but that's kind of terrible. Um, I watched like the Gordon Ramsay shows, like Hell's Kitchen and Kitchen Nightmares, and that might be it as far as like regularly keeping up with stuff. Like usually, if there's like whenever like What We Do in the Shadows finishes a season, we'll like binge through it, and there's stuff like that, or like we'll like hop into like Bob's Burgers periodically. But like I really just don't like a lot of the shows that like people are like constantly obsessed with. I have like no reference for because I'm just like I can't deal with it, which is weird because like I will watch the most stressful fucking movies, but like when it comes to like a TV show, I'm like I can't do it. Like especially like I
That's fair.
like
Like the movie is over in two
yeah.
hours or whatever, but the show is like constant. And I feel like you get more attached to the characters. You're spending a lot more time with them. So like that makes sense to me.
Well, it especially became a thing too, where it was just like a lot of that, like because I work nights, like most people are watching that kind of shit as they're like winding their day down, and that's
Right.
like starting my day, and I was like, I can't get like anxious and stressed out before I have to go to work. So like it just became a thing where like now the only stuff I watch is just like dumbass like mindless reality TV because like I just don't want to start my day by like watching, a fucking show about the worst people murdering other worse people because that's what like all of these prestige shows are about.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, Good Burger. Good Burger 2. Okay.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you have access to Paramount Plus, like, where it's, quote unquote free, I say watch it. And
Right.
if, like, especially if you have, like, the nostalgia for it, like, you'll probably enjoy it. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah. I don't think it's like not offensive in any
No,
way.
it was
So
totally, totally passable. And, like I said, something I feel like if I'm ever like, I might just do, like, a Good Burger double feature, like, I'll probably rewatch it at some point. And like there's like we said, some pretty like funny, absurd jokes. Like I was dying when Keenan burns his house down, which is like it's gonna happen the minute they start doing all of it. But they were like
yeah.
spray the stuff on. He's like, fuck it, throw some fireworks in there too, and you're like, oh. And like the
Yeah.
stuff with like them in the car is pretty funny. Like the fucking Imagine video is extremely good, and like even like the hijinks at the end when they're like, you know, in like the Mega Good Burger, like the fucking Kel robot we did not talk about. The Kel robot throwing the burger in the lady that took over Good Burger's face, I thought was very funny.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I liked the different versions of the
Oh
Ed
yeah, like
bot
in like the
where
different
like
languages.
and there's like one where he's in Texas and he's just welcome to Good Burger. You he like knocks someone's cowboy hat off.
Just
It's just
like
very
again,
stupid.
like he like Kel Mitchell killing it. He's
Yeah,
carrying this, and like
yeah, very much.
it was very good to kind of see him back doing something, and like I got like I wish it's a real bummer that like he didn't get like the same sort of career trajectory that like Keenan did. Because like I love Keenan, but
Yeah,
like Kel is also like it felt like one of those things where like despite the fact that like I know they're friends and stuff, it kind of felt like a thing where like he just got left behind, and I always felt that was like, kind of like a bummer.
yeah. I don't, to be fair, really know anything about like, some of these people who are like pretty have their like time in the limelight or whatever decide they want to leave for family reasons or like whatever. I don't know anything about like his personal life at all, except for, but it's like, we talked about him a lot when we did the Mystery Men episode,
Yeah.
where like he just is like just playing like kind of like not the exact same character, but still kind of like a sort of like little naive, like whatever. He just like does such a good job outside of that like really goofy role. And he's just kind of like a genuine actor to me that
Yeah, I think like it feels like what mostly happened was like they kind of both went on their like post Nickelodeon careers, and like it just seems like the stuff Kel picked didn't work despite something like Mystery Men being fucking incredible. And I
mm-hmm.
think he tried to like have like a R&B like style like career, because
Mm,
I know he made some albums, and I think it just kind of like didn't work, and it just kind of like killed his career. Whereas opposed to like Keenan just has been on SNL for like 1,000 years.
yeah, just doing like a comedian track
Yeah,
almost.
and
Yeah.
like I kind of yeah, like he basically went from like all that to like maybe a couple years of not doing something, and then like got on SNL, and he's now like the longest tenured ever like SNL cast member.
Oh shit.
So
I will say, like, I haven't watched SNL in like a very long time. But his like Celebrity Jeopardy thing is literally like one of my favorite skits ever. Like even just I like quote it all the time, just like thinking about it. Or not Celebrity Jeopardy. What was it? It was like a skit where he was playing Steve Harvey, and he was doing, it wasn't Family Feud though, but it was like a four question. It was kind of like a weakest link type thing, where they gave you like four um answers to a question. You had to pick the right one, but like him as Steve Harvey.
oh yeah, it was it's who like the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire thing.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yeah, that was
yeah.
it. That Celebrity
His
Jeopardy was a different
his
thing.
Steve Harvey is
I
so funny.
it like fucking kills me. And that like skit is still one of my favorites. Like the whole like bit of like Steve Harvey like not being able to like read the questions correctly, and there's like this one um question where he's like asking about spices, and he's like horse rashes, and he's like saying them all wrong. And so now like it's like stayed with me. It's been definitely a decade since that skit or whatever, and I think about it all the time. It's so funny.
Caitlin still watches like SNL from week to week, and periodically I'll see episodes, and like I don't know, it's not for me. But like
Right.
anything he's in, he's always killing it. Like and like so like anytime I ever catch him in like a sketch, is like I know he's gonna be good, because like he's just funny, and it's like he had some of those like really absurd sketches that just became like ongoing things where I can't think of the name of the fake show, but he plays like the host of the show that anytime he starts talking, he just busts into song, and the guests never get a chance to talk. And it would go on for so long. They would keep playing this song, and like every time the song would play, like more and more people would come out and be like dancing and shit, and just like weird, absurd shit would be happening. It was pretty funny. Like anytime he plays Steve Harvey, it's very funny. There
Yeah.
was a sketch that I think he was the Alex Trebek type guy in that was like Black Jeopardy, where it was like two black contestants and then Tom Hanks is like this dude from the South. And like Tom Hanks
Oh.
was like I kept getting all of the questions right. And it was, I don't know, it was very funny. So like he's always good. Both of them. Just
Yeah.
give them all the money. Like let Kel Mitchell join SNL. I feel like he'd be pretty good on it.
I think so.
All right. Did you look at any news at all?
No.
Yeah, I feel like the only stuff I ever see at this point is about fucking Scream 7, which
Ugh.
seems like it's going well.
I'm perplexed as to why they aren't like taking this as a sign to just zip,
Yeah, just not
stop.
do it, but instead they're just going to reboot the entire franchise. Let's see. Ethan Hawke and rest of main cast return for the Black Phone 2.
Why?
I don't know, because everything's got to be a franchise. You could finally buy Death Rider in the House of Vampires
Oh yeah.
on DVD or Blu-ray, which I
Cool.
heavily contemplated buying for all three of us, but like it's like $30 for like
Yeah, I'm
absolutely bare
sure.
bones DVD with like no bonus features. Because I'm
Yeah.
telling you right now, I would spend upwards to $70 for a Blu-ray if there was a commentary track of Danzig talking about making the movie on it. Apparently they announced that like whatever the Alien TV show that's going to be going to FX is going to take place between Alien and Aliens because of course it is.
Well,
Let's see. Oh my god, I don't stop posting memes to your fucking news site.
memes are news, okay?
Uh, oh my god, yeah, it's like oh Jesus Christ, there's so much fucking Scream bullshit on here. Like how many times can you post about this same fucking story? Five Nights at Freddy, blah blah blah. Who cares? Yeah, I guess that's about it. Everything's about Saw or Scream 7 at this fucking point. Because I don't know. I just I wish there was like one of these sites that like instead of reporting on the same like 10 fucking massive franchises would like report on like I don't know like what non-studio movies were coming out,
Mm-hmm.
like something along those lines. Because God, I'm so fucking tired of hearing about what new Stephen King movies coming out or what Scream 7 or fucking who's gonna get the rights to Friday the 13th part 17 or fucking whatever. Oh my god, I forgot there was a new Ghostbusters coming out. What a bad time. There's a new Fear Street movie coming.
Yeah, I do remember that.
I mean, like, I did not like those first three at all, but I don't know. I'll check out whatever because I'm assuming it's like a whole separate thing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I liked the first one, but the other two I thought were
The
really bad.
second two are terrible.
Yeah.
um, all right. What have you watched in the last like 2 weeks?
Um, let's see. Okay, so we did Shock 'em Dead. I rewatched one of my favorite 1991 bangers, Dutch.
How does that
Um,
hold up?
I still really liked it. It's probably been because that's like another one of those things that was lost to
Yeah.
streaming for like a really long time, and I don't have it on DVD. And so I saw it was on maybe HBO, and I was like, oh hell yeah, because it's like a Thanksgiving movie. So I was like, oh hell yeah. So I watched it, and I still thought it was like obviously there's some stuff in it that you're like, Well, it was 1991, but like overall, I still really
That's
enjoyed it. I watched.
that's what I was like mostly afraid of because I don't think I've seen it since like the '90s, and I remember
Yeah,
fucking loving it, and I was just like, I don't want to rewatch this and be like, oh wow, this is like wildly homophobic or some shit.
I will be really honest. The day before Thanksgiving, I decided that I was going to make earrings for some reason. So I was like watching it while I was making the earrings. So I wasn't paying 100%
Sure,
attention, but I didn't catch anything that I thought was like really egregious. But it's interesting because it's one of those movies where like for people who haven't heard of it, it's Ed O'Neill plays like and Ethan Embry is in it. And Ed O'Neill plays like his mom's boyfriend, and he's like this like private school rich snob kid, and he goes to like pick him up for Thanksgiving, and that's just like this wacky, crazy adventure thing. And it is one of those things where like when I was younger, I definitely the his name is Doyle. Ethan Embry's name is Doyle. Where Doyle, I was like on his side, and I was like, oh, this guy is so mean to him. Why can't they just let him like do whatever? And then as an adult, I'm like, what a fucking brat. I would have punched this kid out a window. So the perspective switch was interesting, but I still really liked it. So I'm not gonna say there wasn't anything super, like there were some things that I was like, well, could be better, but I don't really remember anything standing out.
I'm
So
definitely gonna rewatch it at some point because I haven't seen it
yeah,
forever, but. It was definitely one of those things when I saw it pop up, I was like, man, I don't know if I want to rewatch this or not, and realized that like it was shitty and like I just have wrong memory about it.
and I also like don't know what it was rated, but as watching as an adult, I did question how young I was when I saw it, to be
Well, because
fair,
it used to
but
air on Comedy Central at some point. Like, you know how like Comedy Central would get like movies that they would
yeah,
just air ad nauseum, and I remember like seeing it so many times when it hit Comedy Central.
that makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of movies like that where like I remember being a part of my childhood, and I'm like, how did I even watch it? Probably Comedy Central.
Yeah.
Same with like seven, eight heads in a duffel bag,
Oh yeah,
seven
eight.
heads, nine heads, whatever.
I haven't seen that. I haven't thought
Um,
about that movie in so long.
I haven't either, but I remember again, why why would I say as a child that I loved that movie? I found it actually at the dollar store on DVD, so I got it and I need to rewatch it and see what's going on with that. Um, okay. So then we had company, right? So usually like with Chris's friend, we try and find like the dumbest shit to watch. Like we'll watch like any new Paranormal Activity or any new what's it called? Blair Witch,
Mm-hmm.
just like dumb stuff like that. So we watched Speed Racer from 2008, and the live action Speed
Yeah, that's
Racer.
supposed to actually be like one of those movies that I feel got like reassessed as being like actually good.
So they saw it in the theater, and apparently, when they saw it in the theater in 2008, it blew their mind, and it was amazing. I watched it for the first time. I could see how in 2008 this would have been like people probably watching it would have been like, what in the fuck is this? Because it's very wacky, and it's like they do a lot of camera work and like angle stuff that I feel like probably was like really like new for the time. But watching it now, eh, a lot of it, the CG doesn't hold up
Well,
because
yeah,
it's like
sure.
pretty much all CG. And like the story to me didn't really make a ton of sense. Part of the aspects of it. I wouldn't say that I like it was fun to watch in a group setting, but if I were to watch it by myself, I would have been like, what? I would have turned it off probably.
I mean, like I'm not
Um,
like because it's from the directors that did like The Matrix, and I
yeah,
don't care about The Matrix, which is why like I never bothered with
yeah.
it. But like, yeah, like everyone I follow on Letterboxd either is at like a 2 or like 5 stars. So there seems like there's no real like in between.
Yeah, I was a two star. Not my favorite. Then we watched the Last Exorcism.
Yeah, no thanks.
So it was fine. It was a found footage movie that had Patrick Fabian in it, and he was like the main character. So that's like essentially why we watched it. I'm gonna say just very quick spoiler alert for anybody. If for some reason you want to watch The Last Exorcism from 2010. I like, again, we've talked about this before because this is like not a new premise where it basically is a found footage movie where they're shooting, Patrick Fabian plays, his name is Cotton, which I feel like is bad, but he plays this like,
About Cotton Hill.
man, bad.
No.
I feel like bad. Where he like grew up in the church and he becomes like the world's youngest pastor or something, but they start filming him as an adult where he's just like, this is all fake, religion is dumb, and my family's been doing these exorcisms and I'm going to prove to you that it's fake. And so they get a call, they go out, and he's like, there's like this whole question of like, is the girl possessed or is she not or whatever. And the ending is a little Blair Witchy where it just kind of like cuts off and doesn't really explain to you what happened. But like, I kind of liked the ending, though, like, I'm not going to go into more details, but I kind of liked it. And like the movie overall wasn't super great, but like, I kind of liked it, if that makes sense. Then we watched the second one and it was really bad and stupid. So if you're going to watch it, if you're curious, watch the first one. Don't watch the second one. It's very bad. Then we watched this movie from 1993 called Beyond the Law, where Charlie Sheen pretends that he is in a biker gang. He's a cop, to infiltrate this gang that Michael Madsen is the leader of. And it was very long and a little boring. So can't says I recommend.
Yeah, I feel like anything with a title like that is either going to be like the most insane 90s movie you've seen or like very cut and paste 90s action movie.
It just like, and it's like one of those movies where it's like quote unquote based off of a true story. And it just was like, I don't know. Just can't. It's not a kind of movie for me. When we saw the poster, we were like, okay, maybe this will be wacky because he's got like a mullet kind of, and we're like, haha, Charlie Sheen, but no. Then we tried to watch a movie called The Snowman, which is like based off of a book about like a serial killer who like makes snowmans or something. And again, Michael Fassbender was in it, and it just was so boring. And I'm like, my guy, what is going on here? We didn't even finish it. We turned it off. And then we watched Good Burger 2, and I think, oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah, this was
so not a ton.
Literally the only thing I've watched since Kit and I recorded.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, I feel like November and December just seems like I'm getting like no movies because I just work and sleep. Just
looks like Kit watched Pet Sematary Bloodlines.
Oh yeah, he talks about it in the Jackass Forever episode.
All right, good. Well, I can see he didn't like it. So.
I asked him specifically. I was like, better or worse than the regular reboot, and he said it's better than the reboot, but barely.
That was my opinion too. It's so hard to be worse than the reboot, I feel. But
I think that was there was like a couple things that he talked about watching, but I feel like that was the only one that like you would have been interested in.
Yeah. I did also catch up on Bob's Burgers, but that's pretty much it.
We got through like a good chunk of it and then like started watching something else and never went back because I think we hit a point where like there's like 2 or 3 seasons neither of us have seen, so at some point we gotta dive back into that because I haven't watched the movie yet either.
Yeah, I'm completely caught up now with the movie too. It's all right.
Yeah, it seems like everybody was like, yeah, it's just like an extended Bob's Burgers episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to me, it was like look, like I love Bob's Burgers, but for a show that's like still going, it felt a little unnecessary
Yeah,
because it
that's yeah.
was pretty much just yeah, but whatever, it's fine.
All right. Shout out.
Um, I'm still just gonna go with the Orange Years.
Good Burger 2, the novelization.
Yeah, somebody please buy that for me. It's apparently $100 for some
I
reason.
would guarantee there's a way to read it online somewhere for free.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna say the Orange Years. I feel like I should maybe rewatch it, but I remember really I did shout it out whenever I actually watched it because I remember it being really good. And what is that on? Is it on Paramount?
Probably that's like the Nickelodeon channel, so I would assume.
Yeah.
Let me see. Pretty much all I've been.
Oh, it looks like it. Wow. According to Google, which who knows, it says that it should also be on Tubi. So if you have,
Yeah,
obviously
I can
that
see
Tubi's totally free. So
that. Like pretty much all I've been doing since, like I said, like I'm not getting time to really watch anything. I guess I've like been fucking blasting through podcasts at work where I'm like, oh, I think caught up on everything I listened to except QAnon Anonymous. I'm like diving back
never,
into.
never will
Well, yeah,
be
they do
caught
like
up.
2 episodes a week, and like, well, because like what I did since like when I started my new job, like I switched from my iPod just to like Spotify, and so everything that I listened to that was on Spotify, I like just went through, and so I'm caught up on everything there. But I have um QAnon Anonymous and Twitch of the Death Nerve both release everything on their Patreon, and so like I just listened through like the Patreon link because then it'll just do like regular episode, bonus episode, regular episode, bonus episode. I could just go through it in like
Yeah, oh
order.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
now I got caught up on Twitch of the Death Nerve, and now I'm like diving back into QAnon Anonymous, and then once I get through that, I'll be pretty much caught up on everything. But I'm like, I don't know, I'm in like February of 2023 on QAnon Anonymous. It's gonna take a while, but um, Twitch of the Death Nerve had like some pretty fun episodes that like I finally got caught up on, where they did like a 2-part Q&A where like one was like the regular episode, then one was like their Patreon episode. That was super fun. And I asked a question about Ernest movies, of course. That I think they said they're planning on doing a Jim Varney Ernest episode that I'm very stoked for.
Nice.
So I don't know. I guess Twitch of the Death Nerve is my shout out. Go listen to them. Oh, that's what it was. They did an episode where they talked to Jesse and Brian, who run Diabolic DVD, which is like
Hmm.
one of the sites I order movies from a lot. That's in like South Jersey, I think. That was like pretty fascinating and really interesting, and it made like I realized like they also, outside of running that like distribution site, they have two labels they release movies through called Cauldron Films, and one's like Neon Eagle. And Cauldron Films, like I'm more familiar with because they did like a Blu-ray of City of the Living Dead that I bought, and then something else I got recently that I can't remember. But they talked about this movie they released called The Collingswood Story, maybe Collingwood Story, that is, from what it sounds like, the first screen found footage movie, because it is from 2002 and was shot in New Jersey, because Collingswood is a city in New Jersey that has like a very terrible flea market that I go to. But yeah, it's in 2002, and it takes place like on a video chat screen,
Oh,
and I want to see it. I may end up, whenever I get paid, just like blind buying it because I'm very interested. But like, it's like a, I don't know, described as like a micro budget, like found footage screen horror, and I was like that. if you're gonna get me to watch a found footage movie, it, that's the way to promote it to me.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in what like 2002 screen horror is gonna be like.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know. I guess all that stuff is my shout out.
Okay, sounds good.
um, oh shit,
Go do all those
I
things.
had whatever the fucking movie was called for next week pulled up, and then I accidentally closed everything. Okay, here we go.
Um,
So next week we're doing a movie called The Monsters Christmas from 1981 that you can watch apparently on Tubi and YouTube. It is a made-for-TV movie from New Zealand that looks insane. I cannot wait to watch it.
yeah, I don't even know what to.
The description that I sent you, kid, I was like, I'm so in. uh, Stumbled across it by looking through lists of like weird Christmas stuff because we were trying to figure out a third movie to do. And I was leaning towards Santa with muscles, but I don't want to watch Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, fair.
So yeah, The Monsters Christmas looks insane. The monster in it looks very cool. So
Yeah, we'll
yeah.
see.
So yeah, you can watch that on Tubi and YouTube if you want to watch a 47-minute maybe kids Christmas thing. We'll see. I can't tell how like adult this is gonna be or not.
Yeah, and I also don't really know anything about New Zealand's like cinema, so I don't know what to expect.
You've seen Dead Alive. Dead Alive is
Well,
New Zealand. You've seen Lord of the Rings. You know what you're getting into. It's like
okay, fair.
apparently Peter Jackson's my only reference for New Zealand.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think Taika Waititi's from New Zealand.
Perfect.
All right. If you'd like to support us, you could join our Patreon at patreon.com/IB7podcast. Sometime soon, we're going to record an episode on Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping that I cannot fucking wait to talk about. Like I said in the last episode, I was telling Kid about it. I was like, last time Katie said she hated it, so we'll see. I feel like maybe your tastes have changed a little bit, so we'll see how like it works for you on a rewatch.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of it, but I remember not preferring it. But you can't, it's hard to turn down Andy
Yeah,
Samberg.
just the same crew from Hot Rod, so.
Yeah.
You can buy merch at our Store Frontier shop. You can leave us a rating and review on iTunes and Spotify. You can follow Kit at Hidden Kitstery and Kitchenification of Blood. You can follow Katie at WerewolfFace and join Katie's Patreon at patreon.com/werewolfface. You can listen to my other podcast, Nate K Movie Club. We have a newer episode on Cemetery Man, where it's mostly Caitlin and I arguing about whether any of it was real or not. We both have different theories as to whether anything happening in the movie is actually happening to the main character or if it's all like a weird dream scenario. So we've
Hmm.
just been like the whole episode arguing about it pretty much. Um, yeah, the Monsters Christmas next week. I hope you're a dude. We're all dudes. But why? Something,
Yeah, that's a good
something
one.
like that. I hope you have forever ice cubes. But why?